New York in the early 1900s wasn't built on steel alone. It was built on food. Most Jewish immigrants came fleeing violent pogroms, crushing poverty, and widespread discrimination in Eastern Europe, especially Russia, Poland, and Ukraine, searching for safety and a second chance. Step into the crowded streets of the Lower East Side and you'd smell history cooking. Onions sizzling in chicken fat, fresh bagels boiling in kettles, and giant pickles brining in wooden barrels. For these families, food became their language when English failed, a tangible way to remember home and survive the new world. And those humble dishes, shaped by poverty and fear, would one day define New York cuisine itself. Because behind every slice of pastrami on rye and every warm braid of challah is the taste of survival, written by people who refused to go hungry ever again. 1. Bagels with lox and cream cheese. Before New York had skyscrapers, it had bagels, round, dense, and hand-rolled by Jewish bakers who rose before dawn. They'd boil the dough in kettles, bake it in coal ovens, and sell them by the dozen from pushcarts. For immigrants, a bagel wasn't just breakfast, it was belonging.
Come on down to the bakery, we got fresh
2.
bread daily.
Bialys. If the bagel was the crown, the bialy was its humble cousin, softer, flatter, and brushed with onions instead of glaze. Named after the Polish town of Białystok, these rolls came from bakers who couldn't afford luxuries like eggs or shine. They were eaten plain or with a scrape of butter, the perfect breakfast for workers heading to a 12-hour shift. 3. Kasha and kugel. Before pasta or rice filled American plates, immigrants turned to kasha, earthy, nutty, and honest. When times were tough, kasha stretched a food budget further than meat ever could. And then came kugel, a baked noodle or potato pudding, a Sabbath staple that carried stories from every corner of Eastern Europe. 4. Knish, potato-filled pastry. Walk down Hester Street in 1910 and you'd hear it. Hot knishes, 2 cents. These golden, hand-sized pastries were more than snacks. They were portable survival. Cheap to make, filling to eat, and easy to carry for the overworked tailor or vendor. 5. Pickled kosher dill cucumbers. In the summer of 1912, that sharp, mouth-watering tang drifted from barrels lined along the sidewalks. These were kosher dills, cured in garlic, salt, and cold brine by Jewish picklers. The pickle became more than a side dish. It was New York's crunch of resilience. 6. Gefilte fish, ground fish patties. No dish meant more to Jewish families than this. In the old country, fish was expensive, so families learned to stretch it, grinding scraps with onions and matzah meal, turning waste into tradition. Served chilled with horseradish, it was proof you could lose everything and still keep flavor, still keep faith alive. 7. Matzah ball soup. When a pot of matzah ball soup simmered, it meant one thing. Someone cared enough to make comfort out of almost nothing. Born from necessity and faith, this dish turned matzah, unleavened bread, into something warm, soft, and healing. It was medicine for the soul, a hug from history. 8. Corned beef brisket. Before corned beef became a deli classic, it was an immigrant's miracle. Butchers turned brisket, one of the toughest, cheapest cuts, into something deeply flavorful. Cured in salt brine, boiled for hours, and sliced thin, it was a masterclass in patience. 9. Cholent, Sabbath stew. Cholent was the heartbeat of the Sabbath. Since no cooking was allowed on the Sabbath, mothers layered beans, barley, potatoes, and meat scraps on Friday afternoon and carried the pots to the neighborhood bakery. By Saturday, the air was thick with the aroma of this slow-simmered comfort, a reminder that good things take time. 10. Challah bread, braided egg loaf. Among the smells that drifted through the tenements, none felt holier than challah. This golden, braided loaf was the centerpiece of every Jewish table, a sweet, egg-rich bread that shimmered with a gloss of hope. To break challah was to remember blessings are meant to be shared. 11. Pastrami on rye. If New York had a flavor, it would be pastrami on rye. Romanian immigrants brought the old trick of preserving beef through brining, smoking, and seasoning. What started as necessity became an art form. Layered high on fresh rye bread, it was liberation from blandness, a symbol of transforming struggle into flavor. 12. Whitefish salad on rye. This was elegance on a budget. Jewish immigrants smoked local lake whitefish, flaked the tender meat, mixed it with mayonnaise and onion, and spread it thick on rye. To a generation that had known hunger, whitefish salad was proof of success, a meal you didn't have to stretch or share. 13. Brisket in onion mushroom gravy. Brisket was simply the cheapest cut the butcher had, tough, stringy, and slow to soften. But immigrants knew how to turn hardship into tenderness. They let it braise for hours until the whole apartment smelled like warmth itself, a symbol of patience rewarded. 14. Onion rolls, soft buns topped with onions. It's the unsung hero of the Jewish bakery. Soft, fragrant, and covered in golden bits of fried onion. Its secret power was versatility. It held pastrami, brisket, or just a smear of butter when times were lean. 15. Rugelach, rolled pastry with nuts or fruit. These crescent-shaped pastries came from Eastern Europe, where every crumb counted. In New York, with access to better ingredients, the recipe blossomed, a small act of love baked not for profit, but for memory. You didn't just taste sugar, you tasted endurance. 16. Babka, sweet yeast bread. Babka was luxury disguised as thrift. It began as a way to use up leftover dough from challah, twisted and baked into a loaf that looked like art and smelled like heaven. A sweet reminder that life, no matter how hard, still had layers of joy hidden inside. 17. Blintzes with cheese or fruit filling. Paper-thin pancakes wrapped around sweet cheese or fruit. They were a taste of home wrapped in tenderness. Comfort you could hold in your hand. Blintzes reminded everyone that joy didn't have to be extravagant. It could be thin, rolled, and shared hot off the pan. 18. Plum-filled yeast dough pastries. These pastries were a small, shining reward after a week of hard work and long prayers. They symbolized gratitude, proof that joy didn't have to be bought. It could be baked, shared, and remembered. 19. Egg cream, chocolate soda drink. Despite its name, there's no egg or cream in a true New York egg cream. It was the magic trick of the Jewish soda fountains, born when kids wanted a taste of luxury they couldn't afford. This simple, cheap drink felt like pure joy in liquid form. 20. Herring in sour cream. Herring was the taste of both survival and home. To soften its salt, they soaked the fillets overnight, then folded them into cool sour cream with onions. Eating it was about keeping one's roots alive when everything else had changed. 21. Potato latkes with applesauce. Few smells could stop a family like latkes frying in
One
oil.
milkshake coming right
They
up.
symbolized the miracle of oil that burnt 8 nights, a story of survival perfectly mirrored in the immigrant struggle. Each one a golden promise that even in the hardest times you could still taste joy. 22. Tzimmus, sweet carrot and fruit stew. Tzimmus was all about optimism. This slow-cooked stew of carrots, which symbolized gold, dried fruit, and honey, reminded families that sweetness could survive the bitter. For children, it was dessert and dream in one spoonful.
Okay, who wants the first latke?
23. Matzah brie, scrambled matzah with eggs. During Passover, when bread was forbidden, matzah brie stepped in. It was the ultimate make-do breakfast, teaching that even during restriction, creativity could feed the soul. 24. So beach-style egg and eggplant pita, early adaptation. Inspired by Sephardic traditions, this was a hearty egg and eggplant sandwich, quick, filling, and portable, the working man's Sabbath breakfast. It was a reminder that Jewish food wasn't one story, but many. 25. Wheat-based mock roasts. In the early 1900s, kosher delis were pioneers of plant-based innovation. They made hearty meat dishes from wheat gluten, seitan, shaped it like brisket and braised it for hours. A Sunday feast without breaking religious rules or the family budget. They helped invent the future of food. When you piece it all together, the bagels, the brisket, the kugel, the pickles bubbling in barrels, you realize something beautiful. Jewish immigrants didn't just bring food to New York, they brought a way of surviving through flavor. Every dish told a story of making do, of turning scarcity into warmth and hardship into heritage. Kitchens were small, wallets were thinner, and dreams were fragile. But the meals? They were rich with spirit. And here's the truth. Many of those same flavors still fill New York today. Walk through any deli, bakery, or street fair, and you'll taste the echo of that immigrant courage, the courage to keep flavor alive no matter how hard life got. Because in the end, these weren't just recipes. They were love letters written in dough, smoke, and spice. The taste of survival that built a city. Which of these 25 legendary foods tells the most important story? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to uncover more secret histories of iconic places, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you in the next chapter of Discovery.